I never imagined I'd fall for the rich widow I taught to work on the farm. The day my life shattered began like any other. The sun rose, casting golden light over the fields. Breathing in the earthy smell of fresh soil and damp hay, I felt a pulse of hope. But hope can be a trickster. That morning, I stood in the barn, sweat trickling down my back, heart pounding in my chest. I thought I was just teaching her the ropes how to plant, how to nurture, how to watch things grow. But she had brought with her a storm. Avery. Her name rolled off my tongue like a whispered secret. She was rich. Worn leather boots and a fraying flannel shirt barely disguised her wealth. Her hair was like spun gold, and when she laughed, the world faded away, those eyes deep and haunting. I could see the weight of something hidden beneath that smooth surface. It was there in the way she brushed her fingers against the leaf of a cornstalk, as if searching for answers. Each touch tinged with intensity. I could see that crumbling sadness just beneath her surface. None of this made any sense. Wealthy widows didn't come to small towns to learn farming from a guy like me. I was just a simple man, struggling to keep this place running after my father passed. But there she was, leaving everything behind to learn the simplest things. We shared moments, tense with unspoken words. One afternoon, I felt her fingers graze my arm, sending shivers through me, confusion swirling inside like a tornado. "Why are you really here, Avery?" I asked one day, my voice shaky, my heart racing like the wind before a storm. She paused, the hammock of silence swinging between us. Her lips parted, and I saw something flicker in her eyes: fear. Longing. I wanted to hold her, to tell her everything would be okay. But I knew better. Conflict twisted our connection tighter. The more time we spent together, the more I had to fight against my feelings. Each time I wanted to pull her in closer, memories of her past pushed me away. Shadows loomed large, whispers of loss haunting the edges of her smile. I tried to focus on work, stacking bales of hay, mending fences, doing what I could to keep my mind off that tightness in my chest, that lump in my throat. And then, just when I thought I could understand her, she was gone. Without a word, Avery disappeared into the darkness of the night. I watched the moonlight flicker over the fields, heartbeat echoing in the quiet, my breath lost in the silence. What had happened? Was there more lurking in her past than I imagined? Panic gripped me. I flew to the farmhouse, pounding on the door, but the silence mocked me. I was left with unanswered questions, heartache, and that familiar scent of earth, damp with an impending storm. The tractor growled to life behind me, but I was frozen. Where had she gone? The weight of her absence pressed down, a shadow too thick to shake off. Why did it hurt this much? I was losing myself in these thoughts when a slip of paper caught my eye, fluttering under the porch. I knelt, hand trembling, and picked it up, my heartbeat quickening. It was barely legible, but the word help sent chills down my spine. Avery, what had I missed? Did I really know her at all? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Dawn broke over the fields, but I felt only shadows clinging to my heart as I stood there, the coolness of early morning air mingling with the stifling sense of dread gnawing at my insides. The slip of paper, crumpled in my fist, felt heavier than the weight of the world. It was as if the very earth beneath my feet was urging me to run after her, to throw myself into the night and search until my bones ached and my heart shattered. But Avery wasn't an ordinary woman, and whatever was haunting her was far from ordinary. I paced back and forth, fighting the urge to let panic win. Where would she go? I muttered to myself, casting my mind back to every fleeting moment we'd shared, the laughter, the lingering touches, the language of silence that spoke volumes. Yet, for all that, I had ultimately known so little. As I turned back to the barn, an old scrap of wood caught my eye, lying in the dirt. I knelt and picked it up, a remnant of something my father had once repaired, a makeshift door into a storage room that had grown forgotten over the years. It struck me then, in the midst of my turmoil, that the barn held more than just tools and hay. It was filled with our laughter, with her vibrant spirit illuminating the faded memories of my father. I hadn't just lost a partner in work, I realized in that moment, I had lost a chance at something greater. Amid my despair, a flicker of resolve ignited. I couldn't remain chained to fear or anger, I had to find her. I grabbed my jacket and dashed out, grabbing the truck keys on the way. The engine roared to life, a powerful rumble that seemed to echo my racing heart. Driving down the worn gravel road, I sensed the pain of her absence weaving into the very fabric of this land, the crops bending under invisible weights, the trees rustling like whispered fears. Stay focused, I told myself. I had to clear my mind. But each bend in the road was met with a jeering memory, taunting me with dreams of what could have been, or rather what had slipped from my grasp. Hours passed. Each house I drove past held silent stories, ordinary lives unfurling within. Overwhelmed, I turned into a nearby diner, hoping for a minute of respite and any news of Avery, yet nerve-wracking tension twisted inside of me. She'd shared a few stories of childhood friends who had left for the city, maybe one of them could provide a clue. The diner was bathed in the soft glow of morning light, familiar and yet distant. I approached the counter, feigning casualness as I ordered coffee, my hands trembling slightly. I couldn't shake the sensation of being an outsider staring into a window of lives that felt unreal. Behind the counter, an older woman with a weathered face studied me, something behind her eyes sparking with recognition. Looking for someone, hun? Her voice was like honey, warm and inviting, cutting through my despair. Avery, I replied, feeling somewhat foolish for believing that I could find her through whispered hopes in a place like this. She was here not long ago. I think she might have come this way. Rich girl, blonde hair. She nodded sagely, her brow furrowing. She was in here last week, looking a bit lost, you know. I offered her a warm meal. Kind girl, just needs to find her way. Did she say anything? Anything that could help me? I leaned forward, desperate, feeling the fraying edges of my sanity, only that she was heading to the old Miller estate. You know that place? Just outside of town. Lot of memories there, but not many make the trek. My chest tightened. The Miller estate, a crumbling shadow of its former glory, a place that reeked of nostalgia and longing. Out of everything she could have said, that was the only hint I needed. Thank you, I breathed, slipping some cash onto the counter with a gratitude that soared deep within. That I rushed out the door, heart racing with each footstep, clambering back into the truck as if it were a lifeline to her. The estate was almost a ghost now, sitting at the edge of the woods like an abandoned dream. I felt an electric current thrumming beneath my skin, fate drawing me toward that decaying structure. Arriving at the estate felt eerie, the air thick with unspoken words. As I pushed open the rotting gate, a chill ran down my spine. Wooden floors creaked beneath my weight, and the decaying walls whispered forlorn tales of lives once vibrant. Panic tightened its grip around my throat when I stepped into the grand hall. The very air seemed to thrum with something undefined and unsettling. Avery. I called, my voice echoing through the empty chambers. Where are you? Silence enveloped me, but there was something else, a soft sound, almost like a whimpering sigh, pulling me toward what remained of a once grand staircase. My heart raced as I climbed, each step tracing memories of lost laughter and hidden sorrow. When I reached the top, I paused, the heavy door at the end of the hallway slightly ajar. Light cast shadows dancing across the grainy floor. Avery. I called again, the trepidation stiffening my resolve. All I wanted was to hold her again, to ease that pain. That I pushed the door open, and a rush of cold air greeted me. The sight before me stole the breath from my lungs. Avery, seated on the floor, embraced tightly in her own arms, the golden sunlight illuminating her hollow cheeks, painting her as a ghostly figure amidst faded memories. Avery. I gasped, and she looked up, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears, revealing everything and nothing all at once. Just then, a shadow appeared behind her, one that sent ice coursing through my veins. It was a figure I could hardly believe, yet there they stood, a chilling spectre from her past, the stranger who owned the darkness. My heart plummeted. Whatever hope flickered between us now felt more fragile than ever. "Run," whispered Avery, her voice barely a breath, and as I moved forward, the undeniable reality of our tumultuous journey loomed ahead, filled with darkness and the fear of what was to come. With every step I took toward Avery, a violent storm of emotions coursed through me. My mind raced, trying to process the sight of the shadowy figure looming behind her, the memories of our connection fractured by the stark reality of her past. I felt like a moth drawn to a flame, desperately wanting to reach her yet knowing the danger that came with that pull. "Avery," I pleaded, my voice trembling, "don't go. You don't have to face this alone. I'm here." I sought to drown out the dread, aware that the figure behind her was tethered to a darkness I did not fully understand. She shook her head slowly, eyes glistening with fear and unshed tears. "You don't know what he's been doing, what he wants from me," she whispered. The figure stepped into the light, his features sharp and cloaked in a self-assured smugness. He had the aura of a predator, cold and calculating, even amidst the decaying grandeur of the estate. My body instinctively tensed at the sight. It was a face that I had hoped would remain buried in the shadows of her past, a reminder of the secrets she had carried with her like invisible chains. "Avery, sweetheart," he drawled, a sinister smile curling at the corners of his mouth. "You shouldn't have come back here. We had an understanding, didn't we?" I felt anger surge through me as I stepped closer to her, ready to shield her from his reach. "You don't get to talk to her like that," I spat, grounding myself into the booming cadence of my heart. "Avery is not yours anymore." His gaze met mine, a challenge flickering in his eyes. "And who are you, exactly? The farm boy hero? You think you can save her?" He turned to Avery, his expression shifting with faux pity. "She's broken, you know. Different kinds of demons, she and I. You can't mend what's already in ruins." I could see the tension in Avery's shoulders tighten, her inner war playing out across her features. I longed to reach for her, to pull her back from the precipice where memories haunted her. "Avery, please," I urged softly, keeping my eyes locked with hers. "Don't listen to him. You are not broken. You are so much more than this. Help me." Her voice broke, a pale whisper wrapped in trepidation. It felt as if my heart was being torn in two, the weight of her vulnerability pulling me deeper into the chasm of despair. Before I could take another step, she turned to face him, her voice suddenly strong. "You don't own me anymore. You can't control me." The satisfaction in his eyes turned to fury as his demeanor shifted. "You think you can walk away? You think he can protect you?" He laughed, the sound echoing dissonantly off the walls. "You don't know what you're getting into. I can ruin him in ways you can't even imagine." Avery's expression faltered, the weight of his threat hanging in the air more oppressive than before. My chest clenched at her visible struggle, the shadows from her past wantonly gnawed at her resolve. "Enough!" I shouted, stepping in front of her as if I could be a barrier between her past and present. "I won't let you hurt her anymore." The figure's eyes narrowed, shifting from contempt to an unsettling calm. "You really think you can shield her? What's one more life ruined for me? You have no idea of the games I play." Avery gasped, the realization hitting home as she clung to my arm, her breath hitching. "You don't have to stay, you don't have to face this with me," she whispered fiercely, panic creeping into her tone. "You don't understand what he's capable of." But I shook my head. "You're wrong. I understand far more than you think." I caught her gaze, looking deeply into her aching heart, seeking to stand with her against the rising tide of despair. "We will face this together. I won't let him take you." Never. With renewed determination I turned toward the figure, ready to confront the evil that threatened to tear us apart. He merely tilted his head, intrigued by my defiance. But just as I opened my mouth to confront him once again, the world around us shifted, a loud crack echoed through the halls, causing dust to rain down from the ceiling. Avery gasped, and I turned my gaze back towards her, noticing the way her eyes widened with recognition. The ground beneath us trembled, a revelation sparking within her as she breathed, "He's coming, his time is running out." Just then, the back door of the estate swung open, filling the room with blaring light and a thunderous voice that called her name. The sharp juxtaposition of the voice against the flickering shadows of our reality shattered the air around us. "Run!" She screamed, panic and adrenaline lacing her words as the lines between courage and fear blurred. I faced the doorway, ready to confront whatever was waiting for us, but a profound realization struck me. Avery wasn't just fighting for her life, she was battling against the life that had been forced upon her. We didn't have much time. The shadows were closing in, and as the chaos descended around us, I knew this wasn't just about survival, it was about reclaiming the future that had been stolen from her. In that moment, as hope teetered precariously on the edge of despair, everything hung in the balance. I grabbed her hand tightly, ready to tear through time and shadows, fully aware that the true battle was only just beginning, and the demons we faced might not be the ones we were expecting. The bright light from the doorway illuminated the crumbling interior of the estate, revealing a scene that felt frozen and to me a stark contrast to the urgency pulsing in my veins. Avery squeezed my hand, her grip a lifeline that tethered us in that chaotic moment as we shared a look that spoke of determination mixed with fear. "Go!" I urged, my voice barely audible over the roar of heavy footsteps approaching from the brightness beyond the threshold. I had never really been one for running away from danger, but I could feel the weight of the world pressing against our shoulders, urging us to flee. "Avery, we can't let him control us anymore," I said, forcing her to meet my gaze. "We haven't come this far just to back down." "But she started, terror flaring in her voice as the shadowy figure loomed closer, his sinister smile growing with each passing second. The tension coiling between us felt electric, a mixture of desperation and courage swirling like a storm. The footsteps thundered, and I could see the silhouette of another figure appear behind the door. "Avery, we need to move." The moment I couldn't stand the fear in her eyes any longer, I yelled, "Now!" and pulled her towards the door. As we passed through the threshold, the blinding light swallowed us whole. As if yanked into another realm, we stumbled across the threshold into a chaotic world alive with shouts and chaos. A distant siren echoed in the air, and the unmistakable scent of rain mingled with freshly cut grass filled my lungs. The sun, low in the sky, cast long shadows as it fought against ominous clouds building overhead that we barely had time to process our escape when hands grasped our arms, pulling us apart, an unfamiliar voice breaking through the tumult. "Avery! Is that you?" A man appeared before us, a tall, broad-shouldered figure with a familiar face that held an unsettling mix of relief and confusion. Behind him stood a group of people, the warmth of unsettling yet hopeful camaraderie pooling within. "Avery, we thought we lost you," he exclaimed, his voice laden with emotion. "We've been looking everywhere." She blinked, visibly shaken by the sudden return of companionship, glancing back at me, searching for reassurance. I could see the flicker of conflicting emotions playing in her eyes: relief, doubt, and the void of lingering fears that had been her constant companions. Just then, the cruel laughter from the past echoed in her mind. "I can't let you go, sweetheart. You belong to me." The memory resurfaced, clawing at the edges of her resolution. "Avery, you're safe now," I said firmly, forcing a calmness into my voice that I didn't quite feel. "These are your people. You don't have to go back." Her body trembled slightly, and she turned to the stranger, who stood with an open palm extended toward her. "We've waited so long," the man said softly, sincerity etched into his features. "We need to talk about everything what he did to you. You're not alone anymore." Her breath hitched, and a slow dawn of recognition began to unfurl across her face as she contemplated the connection between her past and present. I watched, heart racing, wondering if this was the catalyst she needed to turn the tide. "Avery," I said as I stepped closer to her. You deserve healing. You deserve freedom. She opened her mouth to respond when suddenly, a furious roar erupted from the estate behind us. We turned to see the shadowy figure standing at the doorway, a horrifying visage of rage. You think you can take her from me? He bellowed, his voice cutting through the air like a knife. Avery's body stiffened beside me, shock settling like a weight in her stomach. Hell come for us, she whispered, her voice shaking. We won't let him, I declared fiercely, determination hardening in my chest. I squeezed her hand tighter, as if our fingers entwined could shield her from the darkness that sought to consume her. Before I could say anything else, a woman stepped forward from the group, her eyes blazing with courage and steely confidence. We're not afraid of you, she shouted, drawing attention away from Avery and me. You have no power here. It was an unexpected moment of solidarity, her unwavering strength a flicker of hope for anyone entangled in shadows. Somewhere in the depths of my heart, I felt a swell of hope intertwine with the urgency of our situation. Perhaps, just perhaps, the past did not hold all the cards, but as I glanced at Avery, I saw a flicker of doubt return, a clash of hope and fear that echoed through her. For every step we took toward freedom, the weight of unresolved issues buried deep within her pulled at her spirit. I could sense the struggle within, it echoed my own growing doubts about whether we could truly outrun the shadows, and just as the tension reached its peak, the woman turned to face me, urgency crackling in the air. We need to go now. There's no time to waste. But before we could move, a piercing scream echoed from the depths of the estate, Avery's name torn from her throat, carried by the wind, as a dark figure stepped into the light behind the stranger. My heart sank, fear crashing through me like the impending storm clouds overhead. Avery froze, horror etched across her face, as if the chains of her past were wrapping tighter around her throat. No cant, and in that electrifying moment, as the door between two worlds teetered on the brink of closing, I knew without a doubt that our fight was far from over, and the true test of our strength was coming. Stay close, I ordered, barely knowing if my voice held any of the certainty I tried to convey. The battle for her heart and future loomed ahead, and as we braced ourselves against the unrelenting tide of shadows, a chilling question settled in my mind: could we really escape the ghosts that intertwined our fates? The storm clouds swirled ominously above us, mirroring the turmoil within my chest as the ground shuddered beneath our feet. Avery's eyes remained wide, reflecting the chaos inside, and I felt desperate to shield her from the torrential wave of emotions crashing upon her. We faced not only the shadows of our past but also the remnants of a life that threatened to pull us back into darkness. The sudden scream that tore through the air felt like a knife, deep and penetrating, and I instinctively drew Avery closer to my side, kissing her forehead gently, as if my touch could erase the fear simmering beneath the surface. We need to move, I urged, glancing once more at the figure looming behind the woman, an embodiment of the nightmares we had fought so hard to escape. Reluctantly, she tore her gaze away from the approaching menace, eyes fluttering back to the group of familiar faces surrounding her. Doubts danced in her mind like specters brought to life, and I could see her wrestling with the enormity of her decisions. What if he finds us? She whispered, her voice quaking like the air thick with impending rain. That we won't let him, I reaffirmed, my determination swelling anew. Just then, a soft hand brushed against my arm, and I turned to see the woman who had spoken up earlier. Her gaze was fierce yet comforting, fighting against the violent storm surrounding us. Follow me, she commanded, leading the way with an unwavering confidence I had grown to trust in that brief exchange. As we moved, I could sense the struggle unfolding within Avery. Each step felt laden with invisible weights, burdens of a past that had etched deep scars into her soul. Part of me wanted to push her forward, to run and flee, but the part that cared asked her to stay a moment longer, to confront the echoes of her fear. You're not alone in this, Avery. Let them help you. The group surged forward, and I felt the fervent heartbeat of hope pulse through the air. Threads of solidarity bound us together, this strange family forged in shared pain and victory. But in the back of my mind, doubt crept in like a chill, warning me that we might not outrun the darkness forever. Avery cast a glance over her shoulder as we neared the shadows cast by the trees, her expression reflecting a mix of gratitude and hesitance. What if he comes for them? She asked, a raw edge to her voice that broke my heart. "He won't," I declared fiercely, pushing the words through gritted teeth, refusing to entertain her fears. Yet the chilling truth of her situation haunted us both. The man who once ruled her life leveraged not just fear but emotional manipulation that had shackled her for far too long. Suddenly, from the tangled underbrush of the woods, a series of shouts erupted, breaking the fragile moments of hope. "This way!" The call echoed as a figure darted toward us, breathless and frantic. "Avery!" The voice was familiar, laced with urgency, and before I could comprehend the web of confusion spinning around us, a young woman emerged from the shadows, her eyes wide with desperation, her hair disheveled as if she'd been through a storm of her own. "I found her. I found you!" The newcomer yelled, but the moment her words reached us, everything shifted. The haunting laughter seeped back into Avery's mind, taunting her with every heartbeat. "No! Stay back!" Avery's voice broke like glass, the horror palpable as she stumbled backward, drawing me with her. "Avery!" I pleaded, sensing the depths of her inner turmoil clawing at her spirit. "Don't let him in again." As the shadows writhed, the group of rescuers advanced, creating a barrier between us and the unseen danger creeping closer. The sound of branches snapping and leaves rustling crescendoed, engulfing us in a cacophony of impending dread. "Stay here," I ordered, pushing Avery toward a small cluster of frightened faces. I turned to confront the specters of our past, my heart racing against the clock. "You will not take her from me again." The shadows shifted, dark shapes coalescing as the shadows grew thicker, the figure materializing into the dim light, a cruel grin stretching across his lips, filled with promises of despair. "You think you can protect her?" "How naive," he sneered, stepping forward with a predatory grace, his eyes glinting with malice. "She belongs to me." In that moment, Avery's breath caught, and she shot forward, breaking through the small crowd to confront him. "You don't own me!" she shouted, defiance surging in her voice. But her courage teetered on a precipice, the vulnerability of her heart palpable. "No, Avery." I reached for her, but the moment shattered in an instant as the storm unleashed itself. The heavens opened, releasing sheets of rain that swept through, drowning out every plea, but what caught my attention in the clamor of the storm was the flicker of recognition in her eyes, and a narrow pathway that led into the darkness that had engulfed our hearts. The thin veil that shrouded her past stirred, fluttering like a moth drawn to a flame, and I could see in that moment the true battle raging within her. As the shadows closed in and our surroundings blurred, the question hung suspended between us: would the storm sweep away the chains of her past, or would it drag us all back into the maelstrom of despair? With every second ticking away, dread and hope coalesced in a powerful concoction, threatening to ignite the fears we desperately sought to escape. But just as I prepared to rush forward, another scream pierced the air, this one filled with anguish, resonating from the center of the gathering storm, and my heart dropped. Avery froze, her eyes wide with terror as she recognized the voice of someone she thought lost forever. In that moment, time stood still, freezing the world around us into a tableau of dread and confusion. What would happen next? As the sky wept, the darkness threatened to claim us all, and true vulnerability lay bare. For now, the fight for freedom was only just beginning. The storm raged around us, chaotic and unyielding, yet within the tempest, a nerve-wracking sense of focus gripped me. Avery's eyes, wide with horror, seemed to search for answers that I could scarcely comprehend myself. The screaming figure in the heart of the storm, someone she believed to be gone, echoed her past like a ghost that refused to rest. In the throes of anxiety, the trepidation in her eyes deepened, and I felt every ounce of my hope slipping away. The crowd around us began to shift as if drawn into the depths of an unseen abyss. I felt the pull of dread, shadows loomed like vultures circling their prey. "No, no, no," Avery whispered, her voice barely audible over the fury of the elements. "It can't be her." I gripped her hand tighter, unwilling to let her retreat. "Avery, you have the strength to face this," I urged, knowing full well how difficult it was to stand before the twisted remnants of one's past. "You're not alone anymore," but her focus remained fixed on the figure now illuminated briefly by flashes of lightning, a woman, ragged but undeniably familiar, and the unmistakable silhouette of a past that had come crashing back with the weight of the storm's howling winds. "Sophie," Avery gasped, her voice a fraying thread of despair and longing. "I thought you were gone." In that moment, the rain struck harder, and the world melted into a mire of confusion, a churning mess of emotions. I could see Avery swaying, teetering dangerously on the edge of a bitter recollection, her facade almost cracking under the pressure. Memories that had been shrouded suddenly rushed forward like a broken dam. I wished I could shield her from this onslaught, pull her back into the present reality where the shadows couldn't reach us, but Sophie Avery's sister stood just beyond the fray, fear etched into her expression as she fought her way toward us. "Avery, please. I need you. You have to listen," she cried out, her voice choked with urgency and a harrowing desperation I couldn't ignore. Beneath the echo of Sophie's plea, I saw something flicker within Avery, confusion, hope, despair, all vying for dominance. The storm was now a tempest of emotions, thunderous and raw, and the heaviness of her turmoil settled between us like a chasm that I clenched my jaw, urging every ounce of strength I had to reach her. "He's not in control anymore," I reminded her, my voice steady against the chaos. "Remember how far we've come. You're stronger than this fear." Avery's gaze flickered between me and Sophie, torn between love, torturous memories, and the haunting clarity of her reality. "But what if it's a trap? What if he's playing with my mind again?" Doubt surfaced like a dark tide, threatening to wash away the resilience we had fought to build. A shudder rippled through her, and I longed to pull her into my embrace, to hold her until the storm passed. But the same relentless wind that battered us now carried a chill deeper than any weather could conjure, for the finality of her decision bore the weight of peril. Sophie staggered closer, her breath hitching in the rain. "Avery, I need to explain. It's not what you think. Please, I'm not the enemy," she gasped, tears mingling with the rain that streaked down her dirt-streaked cheeks. He changed everything. You need to see the truth." Avery's heart fought against the finality of her past, her love intertwined with betrayal. Every instinct told her to connect, but fear tethered her in place like an anchor. "How can I trust you?" she shouted, her voice trembling. Thunder rumbled, and as if fate responded to our clash of emotions, a figure cloaked in shadow stepped forward once more, a tormentor, the man who had once wielded control over her life. "Trust is a fragile thing, isn't it?" he mocked, his voice a sinister melody woven with threat. "You could lose everything again, Avery. You think she loves you? Remember who abandoned you." I felt a surge of rage ripple through me, but I forced myself to stay composed for Avery's sake. The rain had turned to a torrential downpour, casting a veil of water between us and the figure who sought to tear her apart. I stepped closer to Avery, creating a barrier of my own. "Avery, look at me. Please," I implored, solidifying our bond in the midst of uncertainty, but just then, Sophie crumpled to the ground, a shattering cry escaping her lips as the weight of revelation fell heavily on her. "Please, Avery, I'm not the one you should fear. It was never me. The one who took me is coming for you too." In that split second, the storm swelled around us, a cacophony of shattering hope and rising despair. As the full scope of Sophie's words settled in the air between us, a bolt of lightning illuminated everything. Shadows danced across Avery's face, reflecting a storm within her of equal measure. The sound of her heart pounding echoed in my mind as the pieces of her past and turmoil collided, the bittersweet truth threatening to rupture the fragile state she had fought so hard to protect. Would we finally uncover the depths of her betrayal, or would the storm rip away the last vestiges of the future she yearned for? My grip on her tightened as the relentless storm raged, the very ground beneath us trembling with uncertainty, and then suddenly, from the canopy of rain above, the voice of fate sang down like a chord struck dark and low. "You can't escape me, Avery. I will always find you." I braced myself for the tempest that loomed larger than before, knowing our fight had only just begun. The world around us felt as though it was suspended in a liminal state, not quite real, yet undeniably present. I could see the flicker of lightning illuminating Avery's conflicted heart, mingling with the pain of memories that threatened to pull her into despair. It was as if time itself slowed, allowing the storm to seep deeper into our bones while we clung to the frayed edges of our reality. "Avery." Sophie's voice, though strained, broke through the cacophony, laced with both urgency and pleading. You don't understand. The truth is stop. Avery cut her sister off, the sharpness of her voice betraying her innermost turmoil. Stop talking to me like everything is fine. You were gone. You left me when I needed you most. Why should I believe a word you say? The anguish in her words reverberated, strong enough to shake the very foundations of the storm. With every furious gust of wind, I saw Avery transform before my eyes. She was fighting not just against the tempest outside, but the tempest within, a whirlwind of anger, doubt, and heartache that clouded her judgment. Though I longed to reach out and wrap her in my arms, it felt like I was grasping at smoke, unable to tether her to the present, and in that delicate moment, amidst the chaos, I remembered a small gesture from earlier that day before the storm had overtaken us. Avery and I had laughed over a shared joke, the air warm and light, a stark contrast to the pending storm outside. Remember the sunflower you planted last spring? I murmured, hoping to draw her thoughts away from the darkness looming before us. The one you were convinced wouldn't bloom? You nursed it back to life, Avery. You gave it hope when it couldn't stand on its own. Avery hesitated, the flicker of her resolve wavering. But what if it was all for nothing? She whispered, vulnerability spilling through the cracks she had fought so hard to seal. What if I lose everything again, including you, no matter what, in here? I stepped closer, feeling the warmth of my conviction steadying my voice. You are braver than any storm, and you've faced so many already. You can't let fear be your anchor, Avery. Not now. Something shifted within her. Just for a moment, the heartbeat of hope whispered in the silence between us, urging her to choose life over the shadows. Yet Sophie's anguished cry pulled her attention back. That was when she saw her sister, crumpled on the ground, overwhelmed and desperate, tears mingling with the rain that fell like an unwavering curtain. Avery, Sophie gasped, pulling herself to a sitting position, her eyes raw and glimmering with both fear and love. Please don't let him win. I can help you, we can fight this together. In that moment, the world began to spiral again, but I could sense Avery's resolve strengthening. She took a hesitant step towards Sophie, fear etched on her face, but beneath it, an undeniable glimmer of love shone through. Help me remember, she implored, voice breaking. Help me remember why I should fight. Sophie nodded frantically, desperation fueling her every breath. There was a reason I went away. It wasn't my choice. I swear to you, Avery, I'm not the enemy. You must trust me. The truth will crack the darkness around you. As her words hung heavy in the air, an eerie silence swallowed the storm momentarily, a pregnant pause where hope dared to surface. I could sense Avery warring within herself, caught between the love she bore for all she had lost and the need for protection against the turmoil bubbling just beneath the surface. But then, just as it seemed a bridge formed between the two sisters, a realization struck me like a freight train. What if he's been watching all of this? I murmured, and the color drained from Avery's face. What if he's been waiting for this moment, waiting for you to let go? The storm screamed anew, turbulence spiraling around us with ferocity as if propelled by the very essence of our fear. Avery shook her head, tears springing forth as she disintegrated before my eyes, uncertainty folding her into itself. I can't fight him and everything I feel at the same time. Please help me. And just then, as the wind began to howl, an ear-splitting crack reverberated through the air. The very sky seemed to split apart as I caught sight of something dark and hulking moving toward us from the outskirts of the storm. The figure, emerging from the rain's curtain, moved with an unsettling familiarity that sent chills racing down my spine. No, please, anyone but him. Avery gasped, staring wide-eyed at the figure, terror painting her every feature as recognition washed over her like a frigid wave. In that breath-stealing moment, the realization settled within me as a painful weight. He found us, I whispered, more to myself than anyone else, but the truth sank deep like a dagger. Avery turned to me, the warmth of her hope overshadowed by grotesque despair as the dark figure drew closer, casting a shadow over the flickers of our resolve. A storm was no longer just raging outside, it was alive in our hearts, squeezing the very breaths from our lungs as the past we begged to confront surged forward to meet us, and just like that, the storm inside us churned violently, shattering every fragile piece of hope we had clung to, reminding us that the fiercest battles often lie not in our surroundings, but within ourselves. The world around us twisted into a nightmare as the figure lurking in the rain became clearer, dark, brooding, a specter from another life. My heart raced as I locked eyes with him. The air, once heavy with the scent of rain and earth, now felt thick with something darker, something acrid and familiar. It was the presence of a man who had orchestrated unthinkable chaos in our lives, and now, here he was. "Avery," I whispered. "You need to go." Her eyes darted back to me, a cocktail of emotions swirling within fear, rage, and the vestiges of hope that I had tried to offer. "No. I can't leave you," she insisted, her voice trembling as if her very soul understood the peril we were all in. "No one gets left behind again," Sophie interjected, showing a strength I had not expected. Despite the shadow of their past, she mirrored the urgency of the storm outside, stirring the courage buried deep within her. "We face him together. We don't let him win," but the more they clung to each other, the harder it was to keep my thoughts clear. How could they want to confront the very embodiment of their fears? The thought of their shared history with this man sent shivers down my spine, and for a moment, I felt the weight of insurmountable dread pulse within me. What could I possibly contribute to this confrontation? What kind of strength did I have in the face of their haunted past? Avery stepped forward, trembling but resolute. "If you've come to hurt us again," she called to the figure, her vulnerability wrapped tightly in defiance, "then we'll fight back." That he smiled, an unsettling twist of his lips that sent bile rising in my throat. "Oh, dear sister," he crooned, the storm breaking around him to reveal a dark humor in his tone, "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help you remember what you seem so intent on forgetting." Avery's breath hitched, the words slicing through her confidence like thunder cleaving the sky. "Remember? What do you mean?" "Your past is not as distant as you think," he replied, taking menacing steps closer, the rain parting around him as though it feared to touch his skin. "I hold the key to everything you lost, a wisdom that could save you both." My heart sank, not because of the words he spoke, but because of the shadow of truth in them. I could see Avery's resolve teetering on the edge. "There is nothing you could offer that we want," I intervened, hoping to steer Avery's focus back to us, to her fighting spirit. "You're a ghost haunting her, and she's no longer bound by your chains." Yet even as I spoke, doubt flickered in her eyes like a candle in a storm. "What if he's right?" she murmured, a hint of desperation creeping into her voice. "What if understanding my past could protect us from more pain?" "Don't listen to him," Sophie cried, panic igniting in her eyes. "He's nothing but a trap, a facade trying to lure you back into the darkness." The love in her voice swelled, her own scars evident in the vibrant turmoil of her expression. She felt it too, the pull of the past begging to be acknowledged. "What did you do to us?" Avery's voice broke, both a question and an accusation. "What the hell happened that made you think you could link our hearts like this? Like puppets on strings?" "Because I know where the strings are anchored," he replied, his voice smooth yet chilling. "For years, you fought against the currents. You've begged for answers, and I can provide them. You just have to trust me." The air crackled with tension, and I noticed something change in Avery's demeanor. Her fight was giving way to an unsettling curiosity. "No. You can't let him take control, not now," I shouted as if my words could wrest her back from the edge of temptation. But within her, the storm brewed, a mix of desire to know and fear of the consequences. And then it happened. A glimmer caught her eye, a shadow flitting against the backdrop of the relentless rain. "Avery," I began, but before I could finish, she turned away, her gaze locking onto the distant figure I had only just registered. It was another person, someone I had never expected. "Wait, is that?" Avery's words faltered, a whisper of disbelief, mingling with the tempest of the night. Could it be? The figure stepped closer, illuminated by lightning, a face I recognized instantly, one that struck memory like a cruel chord. It was someone from her past, someone who had played a pivotal role in the anguish I was trying so hard to rescue her from. Avery's breath quickened, the combination of raw emotions spilling forth, as I felt the walls closing around us. "You didn't go alone, did you?" Sophie caught on, stammering as realization dawned. "Who is that? What did you bring back with you?" But as the figure emerged, the truth glared back at us, a reminder that sometimes the past isn't just an echo but a physical presence, lingering just out of reach, waiting for its moment to shatter resolve and lay bare the hidden wounds, exposing what we least expected to confront. The storm around us screamed louder, drowning out our breath, amplifying the reality that the secrets of our past were battling for a place in our future. And in that instant, I knew, we were no longer just fighting against the darkness that threatened to consume us, we were also wrestling with the very ghosts we deemed defeated. As chaos reigned, I sensed the new challenge, a battle against not only fear but also the very ties that bind hearts, making this fight unlike any we had faced before. Avery's eyes locked onto the figure, disbelief etched across her features as recognition clawed at her consciousness. I felt the air grow thick between us, and the world shrank down to the three of us, the past encroaching fiercely as if the storm itself willed it to happen. The figure stepped into the flickering light, revealing sharp features that matched Avery's. It was her brother, Ethan, whose sudden arrival felt like a tempest had descended not just upon the weather, but upon the very fabric of our lives. Unforgiving memories swirled, pulling at the threads of our reality. "Ethan," Avery breathed, a chilling tremor in her voice. There was shock, yes, but underneath it, an unacknowledged yearning, a tether to a past that had tormented her. "Hello, sis," he replied, voice smooth like velvet yet with an icy undertone. "I see you've made some interesting friends since I've been away." A passing glance at me sent a jolt of anger coursing through my veins, stirring the defensive instincts I had honed for so long. "What are you doing here?" Avery's voice hardened, yet uncertainties tangled in her plea. "You shouldn't be here, I had to come back," he responded, a flash of sincerity hard to decipher in his eyes. "I came looking for you. I know why you've struggled. I can help you. You don't need to carry this weight alone anymore." "What weight?" Sophie shot back, defiance merging with vulnerability. "You're the one who left her to fight alone against the nightmares you helped create." The tension was palpable, reverberating between us like a symphony of unresolved pain. I could see Avery faltering, caught between her loyalty to the sisterhood we had formed and the complicated love she harbored for the brother who had once been her anchor and now a potential harbinger of chaos. "You don't understand," Ethan's voice dropped, growing more solemn. "I did what I had to do to protect you both. But I know the truth now. I know what really happened." The rain poured harder, drowning out his words as my heart pounded with uncertainty. I clenched my fists to keep from shouting either out of anger or fear. "What truth?" I demanded, stepping forward. "What could possibly justify what you've done?" He shot me a scornful glance, dismissing my outburst as if swiping away an annoying fly. "You think you know our pain? No one knows like I do, and certainly not you. Avery, you've changed, but you're still stuck, trapped under the weight of it all." "Stop!" Avery interrupted, her voice rising as emotions exploded inside her. "Don't twist this, Ethan. I've been trying to rebuild my life in the wreckage you left. You don't get to come back now and act as if you hold the key to my healing." But beneath her words, I heard the conflict, the latent hope of reconciliation laced with fear that maybe, just maybe, he held answers she desperately sought. And the realization gripped me tightly. This was never just about confronting a ghost from the past, it was also about Avery facing the truth of her heartbreak, her addiction to the idea of familiar delicate thread that could either save her or rip us apart. Suddenly, a flash of lightning illuminated the sky, and for a split second, I saw it, anguish twisting within Ethan's expression. "Avery, please. I wouldn't have returned if I didn't think I could change things," he pleaded, desperation creeping into his tone. And as the rain beat down with viciousness, a shift took place, a rupture in the fabric of our impending confrontation. Ethan's anguish reminded me of the fleeting moments of kindness that had sparked between Avery and myself, those small gestures of hope in the middle of despair. Then, as if the storm itself pivoted on a knife's edge, the air shifted again. A distant rumble rippled through the atmosphere, and through the curtain of rain, another figure emerged, someone I recognized instantly. My heart dropped as I saw Clara, someone from Avery's past long thought lost beneath the weight of a shattered family, what do you want? I found myself whispering, crushing panic leaching through me as I glimpsed the torn edges of my own heart, feeling the ghosts of the past swirled around us like haunting echoes. Together, Clara's voice rang out, ethereal yet resolute. We can find the truth. The delicate balance of hope and despair hung suspended in the air, raw and palpable as we all stood at this precipice of confrontation, a moment poised to either shatter or bind us together forever. But in that charged moment, I realized with a sinking dread, despite the promise of redemption dangled by our ghosts, the edges of our hearts were fraying. We were still buried beneath the weight of uncertainty, and the truth would not simply set us free, it would threaten to unravel the fragile threads that bound us all. As thunder rumbled portentously overhead, I couldn't shake the feeling that the arrival of Clara was just the beginning of our reckoning for the past and for ourselves. The storm raged on, drowning us under a deluge of water and the weight of our own emotions. I felt Avery tremble next to me, her fingers cold in my grasp, yet I could sense the inner fire stirring despite the turmoil that surrounded us. There was will in her, fragile, unwavering will, like a candle flickering in the wind, yearning to break free of the shadows that plagued her. Why now? She whispered, her voice barely audible over the chaos. Why return when all this time, I fought alone? It was a question that pulled at my heart, one that echoed the fears she grappled with, the echoes of a past she didn't want to confront yet could never truly escape. Ethan's expression softened, a glimmer of something almost sincere in his eyes. I was wrong to leave you. I thought I was keeping you safe. But I've learned, Avery. We all have our demons, we just face them differently. The tension cracked like thunder, and the storm roared louder, water cascading around us, a symbol of the pain we bore. It was a fight that transcended physical boundaries, it pulsed through our hearts like a battle hymn in the night. I could feel of resilience forming in that singular moment, a potent reminder that hurt could forge bonds just as easily as it could shatter them. You hurt me, she replied firmly, the fire in her gaze igniting. You can't undo what you've done just by showing up. That's true, he conceded, his voice low and hesitant. But I want to help you confront the truth. I know where you faltered. I know what the shadows hold for you. Avery's chin lifted slightly, caught now in the gravity of their shared past. I watched the dance of emotions flicker across her face, torn between the remnants of loyalty and the desire to reclaim who she was. I found myself stepping forward, grounding her, desperate for her to see there was more than the past threatening to drown her. I reached out, cupping her face in my hands, hoping to infuse her with the unyielding pulse of my love. Avery, I said, my voice steady, this is your choice. Choose to believe you are more than the pain. Choose to believe in the beauty that still exists. The murmur of recognition swept through her. I could see her simmering determination shift as clarity began to settle on the edges of her heart, facing Ethan and Clara with renewed focus. You may have had your reasons, she said, voice trembling but resolved. But I won't let your past define my future. I deserve to choose my path, free from the chains you forged. That's it, Avery, Sophie chimed in, rising from where she'd been kneeling. She approached cautiously, extending a hand toward her sister, still battered from the storm yet burning with fierce hope. I'll fight with you. Together, we can discover what we've lost and reclaim it. No more fear. Only us. Something flickered in Avery's eyes as she locked onto Sophie's hand. Understanding pierced through the turmoil. I see you're both scared, but this is our moment, Ethan offered softly, the edge of desperation lining his voice now. Let me show you the truth. It's the only way to truly escape what is haunting you. Avery, look at me, I urged, gently turning her face back toward mine. Whatever lies ahead, we will face it together. You don't owe your ghosts the power to bind you anymore. The truth is no longer a shadow, it can be your guiding light. She drew in a steadying breath, grounding herself, and for a fleeting moment, it seemed as if the storm echoed her resolve, each raindrop resonating with the pulse of hope encircling us. Then show me, she said, finally asserting her choice. But I will not walk this path alone. In that instant, a change washed over the air. I felt the intensity shift as the thunder rumbled in the distance, signaling the arrival of our reckoning. The shadows gathered tightly around us, but the clarity in Avery's heart shone brighter. I watched as she took a cautious step forward, her gaze fixed on her brother. For the first time, there was no backtracking, no running from the pain. She faced it head-on. Ethan, grasping the sincerity of her resolve, dared to step close, earning a wary glint in Avery's eyes. "It won't be easy," he murmured, regret echoing through his voice. "But if you trust me, I promise to guide you through the storm." And as if the universe itself took a breath, everything shifted. The rainstorm slowly began to subside, and the sun spared a gleaming ray, slicing through the gray clouds, illuminating the remnants of a shattered life. It felt like the world was ticking, waiting for a restart. "Let's begin," Avery spoke softly, standing tall. With conviction coursing in our veins, we transformed our fear into strength. Together, as the tempest settled around us, we took the first steps into the light, bound by the love forged from pain, ready to reclaim our truth. As we stepped forward, a voice echoed through the remnants of the storm, his voice, menacing yet impotent now. "You can't escape who you are, Avery." But I felt a warmth envelop us, a shroud of hope igniting with every blooming possibility. She turned defiantly back toward him, her heart blazing with the fire of newfound understanding, unapologetic in her truth. "You're wrong. I am who I choose to be." And as the storm finally broke, revealing the vibrant hues of the world beyond, I realized that in her journey toward reclamation, Avery had not only chosen to confront her past but had also chosen love over fear, freedom over chains, a heart reborn. That was when I knew, no matter what storms may come in the future, we would face them together, with our spirits intertwined, a family forged by pain, united in the beautiful chaos of healing and love. In the quiet aftermath, amidst the whispers of new beginnings, Avery turned to me and smiled, the kind of smile that said we had written our story anew. And just before I leaned in to brush my lips against her forehead, I understood the greatest truth of all: to embrace one another fully was to rise above every tempest we would face. As we stepped into the light, the world painted a horizon that felt endless, a vow between us unbreakable, a promise as profound as the earth below. "Together," I whispered, my heart brimming with hope, feeling her warmth radiate through our shared breaths. "Together forever."